I'm not going to be one of those people. I'm just going to come on and start talking, and then I'm here. I'm like, oh, I should have had something to start with. It's okay.
It's going to be fun. So everybody, this is Julie. Julie, what do you do?
I am a meditation leader at the minute. It's kind of what I'm focusing on at the moment. I run a holistic shop in Ballyclare, which is a wee small farmy town in Northern Ireland. So it's a really like kind of rural village, has about 20 churches in it. So me moving my holistic new age kind of spiritual shop there was quite a bit of rebellion.
It's a big thing too. Holistic healing has become pretty popular just with the amount of people that are getting sick and tired of taking a pill as a form of being able to be fixed. I mean, alternative forms, obviously, when it comes to like, I have a aunt that was on my podcast a long time ago. She was a spiritualist. Now I'm open to all ideas. Yoga is the hardest thing for me to get into. So I'm hoping through this podcast, you can sway me to kind of interest it more, because recently I found out I've been dealing with this health issue for a very long time, and I figured out that a lot of the stuff to cure it is going to have to be forms of exercises and types of yoga poses. It's this thing called neurogenic bowel, which is a problem with your spine. And so she's sending me all these exercises and things, trying to help me to get my muscles to relax and being able to, like, you know, get my body back into function mode. And I'm sitting there trying to do one of these poses, and I'm like, I can't help but just think about not trying to fart, not trying to, you know, it's like I'm tackling it like I don't believe it at all, which is, it's hard. So I'm hoping you can maybe talk to me a little bit more and kind of educate me on.
Why are you so skeptical about yoga though? What is it that's like making you resistant?
I think it's just the amount of sitting still. I probably never in my entire life have ever sat still. I've always tapped a foot, have always done, but just with stretching and stuff, to me was like, nah.
Now yoga is the one where it's like all doing all these mad poses and stuff. Meditation would be more the sitting still part of it. Yoga is really good. Like it is like a challenge.
I've tried to do like the meditation, like, you know, like that you see in like the movies or something where someone goes, like I've legit tried that for like a long time. And I couldn't, I kept thinking too much. I was always like, I wonder why a ladybug has spots on it. And then like, it was hard for me to get, I guess, aligned with my inner self.
Yeah. So the common misconception that meditation is sitting still and going, I knew you were going to say that as soon as you put the hands up. And again, as well, people think that meditation is just stopping your thoughts entirely, and that's where a lot of people fall down. It's impossible to stop your thoughts. You can't possibly stop thinking. What the goal of it is to really control your thoughts. But you know, if you're thinking like day-to-day basis, your mind is flitting from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. Like you say, I wonder why ladybug has spots. Why would it need spots? What color do the spots have to be? Why, you know, that's the way your mind works. It's jumping from, they call it monkey mind, because it's like a monkey swinging from one branch to the next. And it's really all about learning how to tame the monkey. You know what I mean?
I find doing a lot of things helps me be able to focus a little bit more. Like I'm an insomniac, so when I don't sleep, which is most of the time, I just try and find a new outlet for my hands. If I'm writing, if I'm drawing, if I'm making something, doing a podcast or something, I try and be as productive as possible. And when it comes to meditation or yoga, it seems like everything's about slowing down and doing these, you know, pulling out a yoga mat immediately. And I'm like, would another form of meditation just be something that you're super interested in, and it truly, I guess, grabs a hold of your attention for a while? Because I feel like in a podcast is like my meditation state, a forum where I can just have a conversation with somebody and see where it goes.
Yeah. There are different forms of meditation that aren't just sitting still and trying to keep your mind calm. I mean, you can do walking meditations. You can do meditations where you're staring at something. You'll see, like, you ever see Buddhists sitting to do the wee sand paintings, and it's really, really intricate pictures. Those pictures that they make are called yantras, and they are like actually staring at those as a form of meditation as well. If you're finding it hard to just, finding it hard to sit still and be calm, a good way to kind of keep your mind focused in meditation is to actually give it a lot to think about. The point is you're telling it what to do rather than you sitting and being run by your mind. So in my classes, I would teach people to use breath counting. You can also use like assigning colors to different parts of the breath. So you can make it really, really complicated like it. And it seems a bit counterproductive to give your mind a lot to think about meditation, because people think the whole point is to just relax.
Well,
And it's really,
there's two ways people tackle it, right? It's like one person thinks that they have to buy all these supplements or buy all these types of expensive objects just to be able to get into that form of meditation. And there's the
yeah.
types of people that like to visualize it, such as like spiritual energy. Like Reiki is a little bit like that with the type of a chakra or energy colors such as orange, blue, green,
Mm,
purple. And I hear that one sounds interesting to me, but I'm like, a form of
yeah.
meditation from what I've heard is that every single skill, every single activity, everything that we're all interested in, it seems like is somebody's form of meditation, whether it's drawing, comic books,
Mm, some sort
writing
of outlet,
music.
yeah.
Yeah. It just
Yeah.
seems like there's been a couple of them that have been in the spotlight for a very long time, such as music being a form of meditation when it comes to
Yeah,
relaxation.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about what it does to your brain waves as well. You know, so if you get into like this like hyper concentrated state, that helps you, you know, that is like the gamma brain wave is like over like 40 hertz. That's one of the highest kind of, you know, waves of brain waves. And that's whenever you're like kind of still very active, but you're able to problem solve quicker and you just kind of seem to be in this flow. That would be more like that kind of active meditation that you're talking about, you know. Reiki, you mentioned Reiki. That's one thing I do as well. Whenever the shop is open, I take clients and give Reiki treatments. I'm really missing the shop at the minute with the lockdown, to be honest. It's really hard not to see people. Um, but Reiki is amazing as well. It's like all about bringing down the universal energy for healing and bringing it and directing it into this person's body. And it's really really interesting. Like, as the more experienced I've become, the more I'm able to pick up on really strange things that like shock me. You know, like whenever I first started into it, I was kind of thinking, "I'll help me heal people. You know, I'll just put my hands here and we'll be, you know, you get trained to do it and stuff." But I didn't expect quite so much that I would pick up from people. Like I had my hands over somebody one day and I kept thinking of like this tartan pattern. And I says, why I said to him, like, why do I keep thinking about tartan? And he says, he had literally came into me asking for help with grief. Didn't really say much more. So I was working on different parts. I said tartan. And he says, oh my God, the guy who's just died was my granddad or my daddy. And he always wore tartan on special occasions. I says it was green and blue. And he says, yeah, it was green and blue for my granddad. So I was just like, oh my God. So it's like kind of bringing in this other kind of realm of awareness for me as well. The Reiki, it's crazy. And then
As
whenever
much as I believe in Reiki energy and as much as I know about it, I still don't like it because my mom's a Reiki practitioner and
yeah,
is a master Reiki practitioner, I guess is what she likes to go by. She'll probably get mad if I mess that up, but I just look at it like every time you've tried to do your energy healings has been in the middle of me trying to cook like a biscuit out of the microwave or trying to boil something. I'm like, this is the worst time to have somebody's hands hovering over you at this moment.
but that's a mom thing though.
Yeah.
She'd pick up that something's annoying and she'd be like, I want to fix it.
Well, that's the whole thing. Is like I think people, when you become like an empath or when you become very in touch with your emotions, like I've been known to be empathic just from being able to sense emotions that people give off, be able to steer a
Mm,
conversation a certain way, depending on
mm,
what someone's interested in. And it's all about the energies we give off. I think and throughout at least my knowledge of just kind of watching and really observing a lot that goes on in the world is that we're all kind of really really super connected by like an invisible string, I would say. And it seems like if
yeah.
somebody's one string gets tugged, it messes up everybody's. And I also think
Mm.
that when somebody runs into a store, for example, and they're all pissed off and angry because they don't have Thin Mints on the shelf or something, their anger is going to display out into the world, which is going to project into a lot of people. And a lot of people are going to internalize that and then eventually start walking around all pissed off. And people are going to be like, why are you pissed off? It's like, I don't know. Everybody is.
Yeah, just and you get pissed off and you don't even know why.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the same token, you can be happy and spread the smile and everybody will be happy and they don't know why. It can go both ways.
But why is it so much easier to be angry than happy?
Good question.
That's a deep one. Yeah. I'm
Because I
surprised. I'm
think,
going to give
yeah,
myself a pat on the back for that one.
yeah, that's a good question. Like I don't know, anger kind of takes over you, whereas happiness is like an active thing that you need to make sure you're maintaining. Do you know what I mean? It's it's easier to be dragged down than it is to bring yourself up because yeah,
Do you
yeah, it's
think,
easier to
do you
get
think
dragged down. But you know, if you're
Well, do you think that's what it means when they say like happiness is like if you find happiness in life, stick with it? It's because it's so hard to keep that if you actually truly have it, then that means that you found your spot in the world, basically. Because it seems like it's so easy just to get pissed off and angry. I mean, I can walk out of this room and just be pissed off, but trying to keep a straight face and happy face, even though there's so much out there that I know that's happening at once, is
Mm,
just so much weighing on you. I mean, that's why they always say ignorance is bliss, is because you're not
yeah.
aware of all these problems that are going around you. But also I think it's weird because in contrary, knowledge is power. So it's like if you got
Mm,
what's the answer here?
yeah. Do you sacrifice your happiness for knowledge, or do you just then, stay in that state of I don't know what's going on in the world? That's yeah, yeah. I think that's like a lot of what's been going on at the minute has awakened a lot of people. Do you know what I mean? To what how bad the whole system was before, and everybody can find a different way to live and to be. And I think it's because people need to make the extra effort to be happy and rise above all the seemingly awful things happening in the world. There's only so much that we can control. And I
I
think
look
whenever people get angry when they can't control things.
I look at it like getting stoned or something, like for the first time. Like I don't do it anymore, but when I used to, like it showed me a whole perception on life I had no idea was even there. Like looking
Yeah,
at detail a little bit more. I call it like an inner self-reflection or self-correctness about oneself. When I would get so baked out of my mind, you have to focus on trying to breathe because you didn't know if your lungs were working or not. Like
yeah,
I would correct myself all the time. I would be sitting like, oh, my posture, it's got to be straight. I got to be sitting straight up like this. I got to be doing
yeah.
this. And if I'm drinking like a soda or something, I'm like, oh, this doesn't feel right inside my body. Maybe I shouldn't be having it. Maybe I should switch to a water. And it's like all these self
Gives you hyper
correctors.
awareness. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
think
not
that's
exactly a
what's
bad thing. Like,
yeah, exactly. I think that's what's going on now, though. You're seeing a lot of people with the COVID situation. We're starting to notice that the world is we're isolated from each other even before this even happened. We're physically isolated. Before we were mentally and emotionally isolated from each other, which made it
mm-hmm.
very difficult because when you're emotionally and first of all mentally isolated from people around you, you're not connected anymore. You're not connected to this earth. You're not connected to, oh, the freaking trees are making noises with the wind. Like you don't see any of that. All you hear is car noises, gas, phone goes off, all these types of things. And it
Yeah.
completely is not a way you want to live life ever.
Not natural. No, it's not. And you don't realize that until it's been taken away. Like, it doesn't. It's like whenever we have, like, the extractor fan in the oven.
Yeah.
It's like whenever you just switch that off and you realize how lovely it is for things to be quiet again. If it's been on for so long. That's what this is like. We moved up to the countryside just before lockdown, actually. And there's a motorway just at the bottom of our driveway, so it was always sort of like white noise in the background with the cars going back and forth. Um, but now that, like, there's nobody really on the roads anymore, it's just so silent, and we're getting to hear all the birds. Not like it was really noisy before, but like you said, you're hearing the birds, you're hearing the sheep in the field beside us. It's really pretty.
That's
It's
why
lovely.
I think the one place I want to end up living is like out in the countryside somewhere away from people. Even though I talk to them
Mm,
every day, I just don't I'm not a big I like my self-isolation. I like being alone a lot of my times. Gives me a lot of
mm,
time to think and analyze myself a little bit too. But if you go out into the world today, I've talked about it way back in the day when this used to be brought up all the time, was about society and technology and where it's going, before COVID especially hit. Now we're starting to
mm,
realize that like phones are very, very bad. I mean, they connect us apparently, but really we don't spend any of that time connecting. We rely
mm.
on this thing called false connectivity, which is like you like somebody's Facebook post just because you see their name. Like, I remember I had a good conversation with that person, and then you just like it and then scroll through. But it's like, did you
Yeah.
read that person? Did you see what that post said? That post said that person was going through a major depression. They just lost a house, lost a kid, lost a wife,
Mm,
and you're not paying attention to that. It's the same thing when you go out into public. How many times do you just say, "Hey, how's it going?" and you walk by somebody? You don't actually
yeah.
sit there and listen for an answer.
Mm. Yeah,
It's
that's a good point. That's a good point.
it's
Like, in
this
Northern Ireland, we all say hi to each other and stuff. Like, it's a normal thing for us to walk by and say hi, but nobody really stops and says, continues the conversation. You're right. But now, when we've been out walking, I passed an old neighbour, and I would never stop and have such a long conversation with her before, but I did. Obviously, social distancing, but we did, and it was just really nice to feel that genuine human connection.
I
It's
think
gonna
it's
it's gonna be really lovely when we can actually be closer to each other again. I think if everybody's taken it for granted.
honestly, I hope Yeah, I hope it does, but I don't think it's gonna happen like you think, just because like
No.
I've had a few near death experiences, and it always lasts 2 weeks after one of those experiences happens. I'm like, "Oh my God, life is great, life is grand." Like you're just walking around like wanting to hug everybody and love everybody, but like the thing is, we don't it's like the main quote. I can't believe I'm thinking like this, but the whole fact is you never know what you have until it's gone. Now we're being told we can't be near each other. We can't do all these things. And our minds are like, well, I
Hmm.
want to be near that person now. You know, before you would have been like, good,
Yeah.
keep them arm's distance away. I don't want that person
Yeah.
anywhere near me.
Yeah. Now we're learning to appreciate life. Yeah. Are you living by yourself at the minute in your lockdown, or
I
where
live
what are you
with
doing?
that Reiki person I was telling you
Well,
before.
that mum.
So,
Well,
I
at least you're
mean,
not by yourself.
yeah, it's nice though, because I definitely think like when all this started happening was a lot of people were 100% stay inside the house, but I knew it wouldn't last long just because we all have this deep down connection that we want to connect with people, even though we've been feeding off like the little tiny sliver of that by being just coming across somebody in a store, just seeing a face is enough to get us through to the next day.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
that deep connection that we used to all get back in the day, like from a family member or a friend, where you talk to them and like you're good for weeks, you're not depressed. You're like, whoa, like you actually listened to me for like 30 minutes. And they're like, yeah,
Yeah.
man, I care
Yeah.
about you. And when that hits you, your heart felt like someone gave you a hug for your soul. But nowadays we're like, did you see what Jim posted up on Twitter? What'd he post? He said his life sucks and his job sucks. Well, let me retweet that. Next thing you know, like you get a retweet, you're like, oh, people love me. Then the next day it's all gone, is because we're not
Mm,
having that deep, that bonfire connection, the one where you're sitting down with a friend or a loved one. You're like, let's drink some beers, let's
yeah.
talk and see where it goes.
Do you think it'll go back to that awesome connection right away, or do you think you mentioned it 2 weeks after your near-death experience? Do you think it'll just be like that? The novelty will wear off after 2 weeks?
I definitely think after a few weeks, maybe a lot longer, just because of how impactful this one is. I definitely think
Mm,
there's going to be people that aren't going to go back to normal, but there's going to
mm,
be people that are business like yesterday. I mean, today was the first day my town opened up, and people were in the stores without masks. People were from out of town that were coming in here. It's a whole local versus tourist type thing, kind of anger vibe going on, because some people
mm,
are taking it serious and some people aren't. I just look at it like people are going to do what they want to do, sadly. So you can't force anybody to wear a mask if they don't want to wear a mask. You can just not let them in the
mm.
store. But if you are that afraid of it, stay home. If you're not, then go out and do your thing. The
Yeah.
world has got to change for somebody else's mistake that all this happened and everybody had to shut down. But if we don't spend this time now fixing or doing something in our life that maybe we've been neglecting for a long time, like shit, like how many times you just roll out of bed and like, I don't feel like shaving that today. And then you end up walking out. Like
Yeah.
this gives you perfect time to read a book, you
Just
know,
do it. Yeah. Exactly.
make some
Exactly.
hot chocolate. I heard that is the most tasking thing in the world.
Yeah, me and the kids, we've learned to bake different types of bread, which I always thought was really, really hard. Before, bread was like that really hard thing, but now we're masters of it.
What do you
Yeah.
try and show when you're teaching meditation or you're trying to do your holistic healings? What do you try and focus on? It seems like every coach or every practitioner has their own style.
Mm. I grew up with my mum with like she had quite serious depression after her third child. And that was when I was just hit my teenage years. So I always kind of struggled, and she was quite absent for the whole support me as a teenager thing because she was had her own struggles, obviously. And then I think just as I grew up, I just tried to look for natural ways to help heal her. Do you know what I mean? Because she was taking the tablets, it didn't seem to be helping her much to connect to people. Um, and I think in a way it's just kind of grown that direction. It's been but it started off with crystals. I was fascinated with crystals and how like one thing can help you with one, and this is going to help you with blah blah. And then it just kind of snowballed into me helping me with my patients with my daughter. And then like now I guess now my slant is definitely mental health and helping people with stress and anxiety. Anxiety is a huge one actually. The thing people come to me the most with in my shop is panic attacks, which
How does
is
how does it help with anxiety though? Like the you're saying the crystals help?
Crystals work on a really, really, really subtle vibrational level. So if everyone has like a different crystalline structure, it's probably going to sound like mumbo jumbo to you if you're not into it. They all have like their own kind of wee vibrational like thumbprint, if you know what I mean. You know, they all
Yeah.
have this. So whenever you're holding one, your body kind of naturally tries to align with that vibration, and that wee vibration that's given off has an effect on different parts of your body. So if they say this one's going to help your anxiety, it's going to help release some sort of hormone in the brain to make you feel like you're less anxious. Or if you're going to have one that's going to help with energy, it'll help you feel, you know, it's going to vibrate in a particular way that'll make you feel like you want to get up and do something, you know.
Kind of like my lucky socks do that.
Yeah, like some people, yeah, people are like, oh, it's a placebo, but to me, it's like, well, if it's a placebo and it works, then just
That's
keep
better
doing
than a pill. Yeah,
it. You know what I mean?
that's
I
better
don't
than a
think it's a
pill.
placebo.
I have
No?
anxiety. I used to, as a kid, I used to have to take like a little, like Pepto-Bismol tablet just to be able to
Hmm.
go into school, so I didn't have stomach pain, or if I wasn't,
No.
it was a giant thing. Then eventually, I just like forgot to use them. I just went like a whole week without doing it, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm not
Yeah.
bringing these. And my
Fix yourself.
dad's like, you don't need them anymore because you thought so much about it that you needed it, so you psychologically put it in your brain. And I was like, that's weird. And then I came across my cousin, and this is the funniest version of that I've ever heard. He needed a cigarette to poop.
Okay.
So he would be like, I haven't gone in a couple days, bro. I got to smoke a cigarette. And I'm like, dude, that's not how it works, man. And he goes, dude, it is. Walks outside, takes one puff of his cigarette, runs up the house like he's going to crap his pants, and runs right into the bathroom. He's in there for like
Brilliant.
45 minutes. And
Oh my God.
it took him forever to get out of that. I just talked to him recently, and this was months ago when he was dealing with this thing. And I was like, you haven't had a cigarette in a while, have you? He goes, you know what, man? He goes, started going without it. And then now, like recently, I hadn't gone in a couple days, and I thought maybe smoking it would bring it back up. Nothing, dude. It doesn't work for me anymore. I'm like, it's weird
Hmm.
to see how our brains grow and
Yeah.
kind of make these
You rely on
tracks.
different things.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's strange. The meditation is, see, if you look into the scientific side of meditation, it's fucking mad. Like it changes. See, if you were to do half an hour meditating for 8 weeks, it actually changes your brain structure. You know the way there's different parts of your brain that do different things. So it actually increases the surface area of your brain. You know the way there's all the wrinkles in your brain?
Yeah.
Gives more wee wrinkles in your brain and folds it up more, and that helps you retain more memories. It helps you be more calm, and it actually helps shrink the area of your brain that's responsible for stress and anxiety, the amygdala, you know, the small bit at the back. It actually makes it smaller. It's absolutely mental. Go and look it up if you don't believe me.
Oh
There's
no,
been
I
so
believe
many.
you. I'm trying to think because I think I like a form of meditation for me in that way would be like when when I can't sleep, I'm staring up at my ceiling and just really
Mhm.
trying to focus in on like my inner thoughts, like trying to think. I'll just shift through memories. Like it feels like I have a photographic memory. I could pull out little bits and
Yeah.
pieces, and I could walk you through every single house I've ever lived in since I was a toddler. Like I've done it to people in my family before. Like, how do you know that? I'm
How
like,
do you remember?
specific memories. I can remember the smell. I can remember the weather. I'm like, it was
Mm.
72 degrees and it was partly cloudy. Like I can be like dead on with it. And I think it's just because I sit there and I think about these things in my head, and I use it now too. When I'm walking out in the world, I try and make sure I'm paying attention to every single detail,
Yeah, that's
every little,
mindfulness. Yeah.
yeah,
Maybe you've been doing mindfulness from a very young age, which is why you remember all those things.
I like it, man.
Yeah,
It's
but
fun
the
because you
whole
can sit
thing to
there and
change your brain, it needs to be like a half an hour committed meditation practice every day, you know, for you to have that effect. But no, I'm not detracting from your mindfulness either.
well, what do you typically like if you were going to try and teach me maybe some beginner ways to try and get into a form of meditation or at least be open to it? Because, like I said, I'm open to everything, even though it's going to be hard for me to get into that state of trying to focus on and do it. But I got a garage. I got time tonight. I got nothing. It's supposed to rain tonight.
Oh, then you're hemmed in.
That's one of my favorite things is when I'm sitting in the garage, I'll just lay down there with the lights off on like a yoga mat and just listen to
Yeah,
the rain picker
the
patter
rain,
against
that
the
sounds
garage.
lovely.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So if you want to start meditation, do something really simple. Make sure, right, so you need to get your posture right. You don't need to sit with your legs around the back of your neck or anything. Just sit with your back nice and straight, and that helps your lungs expand as much as possible, so you're able to breathe and use all of your lungs. Like we in a normal waking life, we only use like the top 2/3 of the lungs. and the whole bottom third never gets used. So that's a whole extra third that we can fill our bodies with oxygen, you know. So even that in itself feels good. So if you're having your back straight, sit with your eyes closed and just take breath in through your nose. And you're going to just bring your attention to the nostrils and then focus on how the air coming in the nostrils feels cold, and
So
fill your lungs. And
focus a
then,
lot on the breathing aspect of it.
absolutely. So cold air in, and then think about the warm air coming out. And you'll notice that your mind will drift on the other things, and this is where you can like flex your mental muscle. You just need to keep bringing your thoughts back to that cold air in, warm air out.
It kind of feels like you're going in through like a tunnel and it's like fading. Like you're like if you're going reverse down a tunnel and you're like just where the light is and you're just slowly starting it all seem like it's kind of fading back, like it's getting
Yeah.
farther and farther away. Is that like maybe your brain kind of focusing and kind of getting into its own state of being, you would say? I mean, I know it might sound like I'm like entertaining you
No,
or something, but I'm
no,
really
no, no,
being
it's not.
dead
You sound like a
serious
very
on
visual
this.
person, so maybe
Yeah.
that's just what your brain switches to whenever this kind of thing needs to be done. You know, some people are very visual, some people are very like to do with their hearing,
Because I mean,
how they
people look
feel.
at
You know,
me and they immediately think like, oh, 22-year-old kid is probably like, oh, yeah, I know everything, I know all this, and like my aunt was like that too when she was trying to tell me she was a spiritualist and telling me all these forms of how she like lights candles and does seances and goes onto the beach with a wand and tries to get into a form of meditation. For anybody that is my age would hear that, a normal person wouldn't laugh. But for me, I
yeah.
said I
They'll
have
be
to.
like, what?
Yeah, I said I can't knock it before I try it. So I decided to
Yeah,
go out onto the beach with her at 5 o'clock in the morning and do yoga with her, meditation. And not that it
nice.
was for me. I told her I understood where she was coming from because of the fact is it's a sense of peace. It's a sense about finding, first of all, I find peace in my surroundings. When I start being
Mm,
involved in nature and taking a minute, I mean, I sat on my porch the other day on the front step, no phone, nothing for 4 hours, just with a little cup of coffee, just sitting there listening to the trees. It was 70 degrees
yeah.
out. I was like, I even like it when it's a little bit chilly too. One of my favorite poems of all time, Robert Hayden Frost. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
Go for it. What's the poem?
It's Those Winter Sundays.
I don't think I have heard of it. No.
He talks about like he basically describes in words of like somebody that is like one of these moments I had when I was a kid when I'm laying in bed and I'm looking up at like it's like a fresh winter day, but the cold blue of the room from the snow outside and the cracks that are literally on the glass of frost. And when I read that, I was like, I pictured that moment, and I mean that gave me goosebumps. I mean, I was aroused. I was like,
Yeah.
that's what's up, because that is, I think, where I could get into my state of being, because I spent a lot of time camping. I mean, I spent a lot of time as a little kid always outside, running around with trees and
Mm,
sticks, lighting things on fire. And like now, like I always get a sense of peace of that. Like for my comfort zone would be walking out into like the nature and being surrounded. Like I live by the ocean. So when I walk outside, it's a fresh
now you can
air
hear
of
it.
salt water and it smells
Nice.
amazing.
Lovely. Yeah, very grounded in nature, like you seem to have been your whole life too. Like meditation doesn't have to be for everybody. You know, if you're happy to sit outside and that be satisfying for you, then by all means, you know, meditation is great for helping you discover who you are on the inside and helping you rise above kind of your ego and like your selfish needs of every day, and to help you rise above the general suffering that we put ourselves through as humans, you know.
What do
So
you
if you
typically
find, well, pardon?
what do you typically find as your comfort zone? I feel like I've spouted out mine. I feel selfish.
My comfort zone in meditation, do you mean, or just in general?
In general or just in meditation, depends on which one you like to talk about the most.
My happy place is definitely the sea. Definitely the sea. Like in Northern Ireland, like we're only like about an hour away from any coast, so it's a very small wee place. Like so, we're about 15 minutes away from the beach, and it's just brilliant. Like when the lockdown happened, we were just so like busting to get out, and the first place I wanted to go was the sea. And you know, the second like you get your bare feet on the sand, it just has this instant like, ah, here I am. It just feels like coming back home or something. You know, that nice kind of comfort.
Yeah.
You could stand in the sea and just like plant your feet down and dig your feet into the sand a wee bit and just stand in the water and just be
Feel it in
present.
between your
So I
toes
love
and
that.
stuff too.
Hmm.
I think
Nice.
that like a lot, like, I mean, I had a rough kind of go through the education system when I was a kid, just because of a lot of like back then they didn't know how to deal with somebody with ADHD. It was
Mm.
simple just to toss them out of the room. And I'm looking at like all these schools now that are focusing on nutrition being a problem with the kids' energy levels, and also like maybe give them a fruit or something, a healthy snack, instead of giving him like a sugar or chocolate milk so he's not jumping
Mm.
around when he goes to class. And
Yep.
I look at now they're also doing things with stress and anger, instead of putting them in isolation or putting them in like ISS is what they call it.
Yeah.
Forms of
Because those
meditation.
things just make them so much worse. So they do.
Exactly. Like,
It's
but
not just so counterproductive.
using forms of meditation to be able to get these kids that are supposed to be known as a problem in the classroom to be able to
Yeah.
relax. I'm like, maybe instead of taking field trips to a theater or taking field trips to these types of things, take them on a field trip to the beach. I mean, let them sit
Yeah.
there and feel the sand in between their toes. Let them
Connect.
relax and
Yeah.
have fun. Build a sandcastle. I watched my little nephew, who is being homeschooled right now by my brother's fiance, who's a teacher, and the things that kid can do at his age, at the age of like 3 or 4, he's already doing stuff that I'm looking at. I'm like, I couldn't even find fucking Waldo. Like, he's going nuts, and he's so connected and everything. And it's amazement
Yeah.
to see
It's
like,
beautiful.
yeah, the change. And like, I see so many, like, I have other little nephews that are like playing with a tablet all day. I'm like, why is
Mm.
he so much more connected? Like, he wants to go reading time, and I'm like, reading time? What? And he runs into his room. He sits there on the bed waiting for you to come in. He's tapping on the bed like, come on,
Come
we're gonna
on.
we're gonna read a book. I'm like, well, I don't know how to read. You read it to me.
Yeah, it's definitely a different kettle of fish nowadays. Like I was actually a childminder before I opened my shop. And that was one of the things. There's a forest just on the hill in front of my house. So we went up to the forest all the time. We were going to the beach all the time, going down to the river and just throwing stuff in the river. You know, it's
Yeah.
nature is definitely the way to go. You ever hear the Montessori skills actually? They're a whole different approach. It's like over here you got like the public school, I guess, and then Montessori schools are like £3,000 a term, or I don't know, is it semester with you guys? And they're like really, really expensive. So nobody can really afford to go unless you're very, very well off, obviously. But their whole approach is like child led education, and it seems to work really well for them. You know, they don't force them through this curriculum and say, right, sit down at the age of 4 or 5 and, you know, sit still all day and learn how to write with something that makes your hands feel sore. But these guys let the children explore their own, like they obviously put all the tools out there for them that they should be learning, but they don't force them. They just kind of put it out as play, and it's like, right, okay, go play. And then whenever the child is going drawn to one particular thing, they elaborate on that. And it's all like all their toys are nature based, and it's all sand, it's all muck, it's all like wooden beads and wooden toys and natural fibers and things. So like they do really, really well for their kids, those Montessori schools.
If I had to ask you a really kind of deep question when it comes to, if you had to choose one of your senses to lose, which one would it be? Because
Hmm.
that one for me is, I have the answer that everyone chooses to lose. And that's the one thing I cherish the most, which is my sense of touch.
Your sense of touch, I would lose taste.
You would, okay, I'm with you on that one. I'd rather lose
Yeah.
like the sense of taste or something, because the sense of touch, like a lot of people are like, I'd rather lose that because, I don't really need it. I'm like, that is
Yeah, you do.
that's your eyes basically. Like, you being
Yeah.
able to feel detail in things. I couldn't imagine not being able to, like, right now as
No.
I'm talking to you, I think this table is mahogany. I keep saying it's mahogany. Feels like a birch, but like, just feeling the detail. Like, there's knife marks from where my buddy was bored one time and he was getting deep on my podcast and he's just carving into the table, trying to distract himself as well. And I'm like, putting rubbing my hands across that and feeling the detail on my fingerprints, and then rubbing your fingertips together to feel the nice crisp sound of it too. I mean,
Yeah.
that all feels really well. It helps me get connected sometimes, because I mean, I feel like most people, we spend a lot of our times in our heads. We
Mm.
don't have a chance to get out and focus on what's going on around us. I mean, you're
Yeah.
driving and you're thinking about a million different things at once, and you can do that on autopilot because when you've drove the same roads over and over and over again, it's so easy for you to just go up
Yeah.
in your head. I mean, I did it all
Yeah.
through my school years. I think schools need to talk to kids and tell them, what do you want to learn? And if a kid goes Scooby
Yeah.
Doo or something like that, well, get them into crime investigating, get them into something that is a hint of what
Exactly.
they want to learn.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. The sense that I would lose, yeah, would definitely be taste. And I think like a lot of people don't really be present in their bodies. That's probably why that they're always getting all this like, hard times with their mental health, because they do spend too much time up here and not enough time in the world and in their own bodies. And that's why the breath is so good to use in meditation as well, because it's a tangible thing that we have access to every single day around the clock, and it's the one thing that makes you feel good. You can use it anytime. And
How
it's again, it's like your sense of, is it your sense of touch, your sense of feeling? It's like, yeah, it's a sensation, it's a feeling of like taking a deep breath just feels awesome. You definitely wouldn't want to lose your touch.
And when it comes to like using your healing or maybe using some of your teachings around your kids too, how influenced are you to them with this type of talk and this type of kind of way of living as well? I feel like as a parent, and you come across this thing that is basically a healing purpose. It's basically something to correct yourself. I mean, if I would have
Mm.
had this type of meditation or these types of understandings or teachings when I was a kid, I probably wouldn't have such a giant problem with being overwhelmed nowadays. I mean, when
Mm.
I always make sure all my work is done, always make sure I'm ahead of the game on everything, make sure I'm never behind. And if I get
Mm.
behind and stuff starts getting shoved in my face, if a million different things happens at once, I'm out. I start freaking out. I start getting angry real
Yeah,
quick,
that's
and
when you
it's
need to
like,
meditate.
yeah,
Yeah. If you feel like you don't have enough time, then that's definitely when you need to meditate.
man.
If you're a regular meditator as well, things seem to just you'd be able to do things quicker because your mind is able to organize everything, and you're able to do them because they're better organized in your head. The kids are very, very tuned into it as well. I mean, I started meditating because I was losing my patience too much with my daughter. She was about 3 or 4 at the time, and it just felt really bad and really guilty for snapping all the time. She's ginger, like the wee Irish gingers, and she's really feisty and like talk back, and she's a real strong wee kid. Like, so she was a shock to my system whenever she started getting old enough to talk back. So I started meditating, and she did come to quite a lot of the courses with me. Like the courses that I used to go on were there was always somebody there that was taking care of all the kids. So she used to come with me, and it was all the other mummies and daddies were meditating while somebody was taking them away to play. So she was always very aware of meditation. And when she became old enough, I sent her on a wee course herself for meditating. And it's not like she uses it. It's not like she's a real like little Zen child, but if she's having a tough day and we say right breathe, she knows exactly what to do. She's so and yeah, when she's ever getting angry, she's getting pissed off, you just tell her, just fucking breathe, right? Just calm yourself down. My son, he's only 3, actually he's 4 now, and he's just a big bundle of energy too. I don't think I've never really needed to introduce him to anything just yet, but he's very aware of all the crystals around the house and that he's not to just play with them like rocks and throw them around. He knows that they're special, and mummy does a lot of meditation, but he hasn't been introduced to it as in how to use it just yet, but he probably will as he grows older.
You just said one of the most important things I kind of want to talk about, which is the fact that you said that losing your patience with some of your kids as well.
Mm.
I feel that way if I became a dad at one point. Like I see so many kids, freak out in a store, and I look at back when I was a child, I was hell on wheels. I mean, I don't know how. I told my dad so many times, like, I don't know how you didn't drown me or something. Like, good God, man.
That's
Like,
terrible.
I did insane things. I was just, 24/7, no sleep, just run around punching holes in walls, doing the craziest thing, trying to throw
Mm.
toys everywhere. And he goes, you just had to grow into yourself. And I was like, but how did you know that was going to happen? Like, because I look at myself now at the age I'm at, and if I'm going to have kids eventually down the road, I look at, like, I see the kids that freak out in the store, and the first thing I want to do is just like put them in a hot car, put them and do something, get out of it. Like, and people are like, oh, it's different when it's your kid. And I'm like, I get that, but the patience that goes into that. And I know so many of my friends that had kids in their 20s and they're
Mm.
drowning in it. I'm like, you didn't have it figured out. You weren't ready for this. And
No, I had Amber when I was 20 as well.
It's a difficult thing. How did you so you turned to meditation to be able to fix that and first of all calm yourself down and find really the answer to things?
Yeah, I knew that it was my partner at the time. He had just said, "Why don't you just try meditation?" And I went, "I did on meditation. What are you on about?" And then I kind of was like mocked. And he says, "No, just try." He says, "Do a 5 minute one. Sit down, get YouTube up, put one on for 5 minutes." And I think I was just hooked. I kind of really seen the potential in the whole thing. Um, and definitely as you work your way through, whenever you start meditation, it is a real journey. It's not just immediately like, right, I'm going to start meditating for patients, and then 2 weeks later you're not your patient with everybody. It's not, it doesn't happen like that. It's a journey, because as you go you start to uncover, like, this is why I'm impatient, because I automatically think this and I assume that things are going to be like this. You learn all these things that you've been ingrained with whenever you've been growing up. You learn all these things that have been taught to you and you've buried underneath, and that's part of your subconscious. And you start to dig out all the bits that you don't like, and you learn how to reconnect. Sorry, you learn how to correct them again. And that's what that's about. And the patience, the calmness, all is just like a, what's the word, like a side effect of it.
What would you say would be the hardest thing just with starting meditation and first of all even teaching it too? What would you say the hardest thing would be? Either that you've seen in a client or one thing you've had to overcome with yourself?
Well, just like you said, people saying that they can't stop thinking, and they can't train themselves to bring their thoughts back to the meditation focus. And also physical kind of restlessness as well. With me, the main thing was falling asleep. I couldn't stop falling asleep at at the very start, because I had the kids. I was so tired, just kept nodding off. But it's the restlessness. People, get pins and needles in their feet, or they're just constantly shuffling about, get itchy here, want to sneeze. Um, I once sat through a whole meditation trying not to sneeze for about half an hour, and I didn't. So
What would you say the
it's a
most
brand.
beneficial thing is then? Like the one thing you've taught, or have you seen people really hooked to through your teachings? Like, have you really shown anybody a different side of things? Like, you've already shown me at least give it a try, if anything, like at
Yeah,
least
absolutely.
give
Just
it a
try.
chance. And I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of people in this world that come to you wanting to learn yoga, wanting to learn meditation, what do you typically see the change in them be?
The change, it really just depends on the person. Some people come with the big mental health issues, and some come wanting to go really deep on a deep spiritual level. And you get ones that's just the breakthroughs I love seeing. People do it for a while, and just like I said, they start to uncover, oh my God, I've just realized this about myself, and I realized that this is what I need to fix. Um, and it's that, yeah. Even when people do their first meditation with me, I love whenever they come out and they have this real peaceful look on their face, and they're like, oh, I've never sat so still, or oh, my mind's never been so quiet for years, and that's the most peace I've ever felt. And it's a lovely feeling to be able to bring that to people and to say, right, I've set it off. Now they're going to go and help themselves, and then helping themselves, then they're going to be making the world a better place. I think that's what my whole thing is about. I was I, I grew up listening to a lot of Michael Jackson.
Mhm.
They healed the world.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I have in my head, from growing up. I just want to make the world a better place, genuinely. So that's whenever I see people going out and doing that, that's just rewarding for me.
I think it's a lot about paying forward in the world too. I mean, if we look
Mm,
at doing a good act and hopefully somebody returns that favor, I'll never forget going up to like it was when I was a kid, a McDonald's drive-through, and someone had paid it forward, so my meal was free. So I just did it to the person behind me,
no,
and it's interesting to think that it kept on going, even though it probably stopped at the next person. But it's that ripple effect. I mean,
yeah.
if bad energy can cause that, then what can good energy
Good
cause?
energy, exactly. Just like we were saying earlier about people being angry and people being happy.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
my dog scratching the door there
He wants to come out and
behind me.
talk
So
meditation too.
we want to come out and he lied behind me. Um, yeah, that's what I mean. If you start to work on yourself and you can find more peace in yourself, then you're.
When even like we talked about in the beginning with COVID and everything, what do you think are your predictions for what's going to happen once everything is kind of opened back up? When businesses are finally back in stores, when people
Hmm.
are able to go back to work again and be able to kind of live, I guess what you would call almost the new normal, I would say. I hate using that word because it makes it seem like it's never going to be back to the way it was, which I think eventually
Yeah.
it will be.
I kind of hope it doesn't go back to the way it was. I really don't, because I think a lot of people were very selfish before. They were spending money on really stupid things. Like, I have found I've been able to regrow. This sounds so silly, but the fact that I've been able to regrow spring onions in my windowsill, I've just been like, what the fuck else am I wasting money on? Like bread, you know what I mean? People they're kind of taking a step back, as in they're relying more on themselves and learning more about what they can do. And hopefully that'll reduce all this consumerist kind of attitude in people. I really, really hope that's what will happen.
Yeah, it starts
And
to get a
because
little
people,
bit weird when you're going and you're praying to God that the only reason businesses come back is so you can go to Home Goods instead of, hanging out with friends again, or being able, like, I noticed so many people on Facebook talking about, I can't wait to drink. I can't wait to building their own bars at their house or something. And I'm
mm,
like, that's a problem when that becomes your main source of fun. It's also fun just to have,
absolutely.
be around your family and friends. So many people. I mean, did you notice the numbers of
Yeah, the wholesome stuff. Yeah, I need to
yeah,
get
but
back to.
the domestic violence that was way up because of all these people that are starting to realize I I hate you, like with their person that's sitting beside them, and I'm like, you guys, this is the best time to self-analyze and figure out what you want to do with your life. It helped me get my shit together. I mean, I'm like sitting over here like, oh,
Mm,
I'll just keep podcasting and working and
absolutely.
podcasting and working. Now I'm like, what do I want out of life? Do I want to travel? Yeah, let's go. And with this
Exactly. I think it's,
health,
yeah, because
yeah.
people have had to stop. Yeah, people stopped their jobs, but they're still getting money. So on that kind of thing, that's been taken care of. So now they are left to be like, okay, what am I good at? What do I want to do? It's like it's a kind of part. Obviously, the disease and the virus and people dying is the bad thing. But for people who are removed from it all, it's kind of a blessing in disguise, because we do have this sudden freedom to explore our own passions and our own desires. So it's about making the best of it. I think we all started off in a lot of fear, and then after a while, we're kind of like, oh, actually, this could be a good thing.
I noticed
Um,
I
but
had this
cool.
I had this one thing about me for like the longest time. I'm a fitness freak. I've gone to the gym every day for going
Mhm.
on 7 years now. Uh, I haven't missed a day at all, but when COVID hit and gyms shut down, I had to forcibly make my own home
Oh
gym by buying
no.
equipment and stuff. And this is what kept my demons out. I thought this is all I had, and I was going to be consistent at one thing. I was never going to give up. I still can work out with my home equipment, like a bench press and all that type of stuff. But I've also noticed
Yeah, it's
that,
not the same though.
yeah, but it's given me a form of clarity too. Like the main reason why I never really traveled a lot was because I didn't want to miss a gym session. Now I'm looking at it like I have a life to fucking live, and it's not the confinements of your gym.
Exactly.
It's not
Yeah.
that's not forever, man. And especially with like the information I found out the other day with like my spinal
Mm.
injury and all this type of stuff, I'm like, let's go explore. Let's start living a life and realize I'm looking back at like all my years from when I graduated, and I was like, they were fun, but I don't remember what I did. Nothing significant to me. You know what I mean? Nothing important. And I think that's what a lot of people are
Mm.
going to be experiencing now is that like, oh shit, I've been working for 30 something years and I missed out on big chances in my life. I think more people are going to travel.
Yeah.
I mean, I plan on going to Ireland. That sounds like an amazing place.
Yay. It is so beautiful. It is beautiful. I actually was sitting the other night thinking I would like to see more of Ireland. Like we would go camping in the summers if we didn't have any foreign holidays planned, and it's fantastic.
I'm
I
trying to
wanted to
chase
go on
down.
all the Celtic kind of goddess.
Yeah, yeah. That's like the one
Pardon?
thing I'm super interested in is like the ancient religion behind that, like the Celtics and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird because Christianity kind of wiped out a lot of the original Celtic religion, like all the Celtic gods and goddesses. And through my holistic stuff, that's been kind of reawakening in me as well. Like a lot of things that I am involved in and I'm selling, like, people, this whole cultural misappropriation thing about, like, if you're selling Native American white sage, for example, they're like, oh, that's misappropriation. So it's made me kind of step back and take a look. Like, even my dreadlocks, sometimes I'm like, is it not? But then I look back, there was dreadlocks in my own Celtic roots as well. So
Yeah.
but that whole cultural thing has made me say, right, I need to take a look at what my own cultural heritage is, because it's such a rich history. Like Bridget, Saint Bridget is now, she was a really big goddess back in the day with the Celtic, the Celtic religions and traditions, but she was so loved that the Christianity religion still took her on into the Catholic religion too. So they assimilated a goddess from another religion just because the people loved her so much. So it's a powerful thing, the heritage here. So I think it's really worth exploring. There's like trails that you can go on around Northern Ireland, or not Northern Ireland, where you go to like the different sites of where these goddesses were praised, and the different wee temples, or where their temple ruins were and things like that. So I think it sounds really interesting. Like I'm 32 and I still haven't really explored much of my own heritage, and that kind of sucks. So need to get it done.
I want to go down there just to be able to play bagpipes. I know that sounds a little bit selfish, but that's like the one thing I'm really interested in. And I don't know if that's Ireland or bagpipes. Is that Ireland or Scotland? Am I getting confused?
Bagpipes, that's Scottish. That's Scotland.
Oh my God.
Although there is somebody near me that plays the bagpipes.
I knew it. It's the area. It's the weather. It's whenever you get that misty kind of feeling is when you got to pull out bagpipes. I don't know. I that's the one thing I think of whenever anybody ever says Ireland or Scotland. Also, if you say Canada, I immediately also think Italy for some reason, even though I know they're nowhere close to each other.
Is this for 2 seconds?
You see me?
Can you pause?
Yeah. I was saying with like Canada and Italy, I always get them mixed up or something just because I'm not very geographical and knowing a lot of these places. But I think it's interesting too to see that when COVID's definitely over, or at least when we get back to a state, a lot of people are going to travel and start getting these experiences. I think it's not about cultural heritage, really. I think it's a lot about whoever's open to it and wants to try and go into it and does it in the right way without demeaning
the right
it.
way. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. As long as you're honoring the kind of traditions, the original traditions. Yeah.
I think that's very important. And I really appreciate you, Julie, coming out and doing the podcast, giving me at least a good amount of your time to be able to have a conversation on this subject as well.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me.
Now, do you want to promote your Instagram? I want to give you here a second if you want to promote your Instagram and your teaching sites.
Okay, so I have a virtual meditation membership program that's running at the minute, and you can find details of that on the Harmony Hub ni.co.uk. Or you can contact me on Instagram at the Harmony Hippie, or if you're on Facebook, you can look up the Harmony Hub NI. The Harmony Hub is the name of the shop that I run, so just you can search that. The meditation program has 3 online classes a week, and you'll get a personalized meditation plan with me. You'll have a coaching call, and then I'll give you a plan and even record any specific meditations for you if you want. You can also be part of a virtual full moon circle with all the other members, and you will receive distance Reiki healing once a month. Okay? So there's quite a lot in it. It's only £20. I can't think of what that is in dollars, sorry. So it's quite good value for money. So get in touch if you fancy signing up and learning how to meditate.
Now, do you want to sign us off?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for joining me. Have a nice night and be nice to each other.